on our left is one of our only two supermarkets that we have in Lerwick, and we have another one up in the north part of Shetland in a hamlet called Bray. On the left, you may be able to see what looks like sails.
Sails?
Sails of a ship, if you can see on the left there, and that's part of our museum. The museum's a wonderful place to go and visit if you have any time later on. Now, the housing coming up on the right is housing that was built to house the north of Scotland fishermen that came to live in Lerwick in the 1930s, when there was a huge herring boom going on, because Lerwick really only grew at that time in the 1800s, and on the back of these houses they had small little sheds on them where the women used to bait the fishing lines. Lerwick, as you may have noticed on the left, passing by, there was a shop called Muddy Bay, and Lerwick means Muddy Bay. The 95% of the names in Shetland come from our Norse heritage, because we've only been part of Scotland and the UK for about 550 years. Prior to that, we belonged to Scandinavia, and Shetland was given over to the UK, over to Scotland in, well, it wouldn't have been the UK at that time, it would have just been Scotland. And it was given over in 1469, when Princess Margaret of Norway and Denmark married King James III of Scotland. And her father, King Christiansen, didn't have enough money for the wedding dowry, so he pawned Orkney and Shetland to Scotland. So we were sort of like a wedding present. He said he would take us back when he got enough money, but he never did get enough money. So we're still part of the UK. But being a Shetlander myself, we have such strong links with, especially Norway. We have such strong links that I think I do feel a bit Scandinavian as well. So it's quite nice to have that strong link, and with all the place names and the Viking heritage. This is our main pier here. This on the left is Victoria Pier, and this is where the boat used to leave for Aberdeen back in the 70s when we were young. On the right is the tourist centre, you will see, and our market cross. And on the left is what we call the small, and that orange and blue boat is our lifeboat. We have two lifeboats that serve Shetland in the 1930s, and they're very, very important to us, our lifeboat service. We're now heading up Church Road. Now this was built in the end of 1960s, and it was a second road into town and out of town. Before it was built, this was just housing and a church. Now, on the left, we have the biggest church in Lerwick, and that we call it the big kirk. It is called St. Columba's. There's a lot of churches in this area. They were all built in the 1800s, and some really fine townhouses as well. Most of these churches, apart from the one we are passing on the left, is now private accommodation. And on the right, this building here with the white porch was Shetland's first bank. We're now turning right onto the hill head. Now the hill head at one time was the boundary of Lerwick, and leading down from the hill head is what we call the lanes. They used to be called the closes, and all the houses we were going past, and they were all packed in tightly together. It was not a very nice place to live back in the day, although now it's actually quite a desirable place to live. But they were actually what we called hovels back then. There was open sewers running down the streets. It would not have been a pleasant place to live. But they're wonderful to explore and go walking in. On the left, this old church is now where it's our council's debating chamber. And next door, this blue 1960s building, which is the same age as me, is our library. And I think it's quite a nice piece of 1960s architecture, really. It used to be our museum back in the day, in the 60s. On the town hall. Now the town hall here has beautiful stained windows. It was actually built in the Gothic sort of style. It was built in 1886, and it has beautiful stained glass window that depicts our Norse heritage. So when you're inside, you see this beautiful stained glass windows, and the one on the top floor on the extreme left is Princess Margaret marrying James III when you're inside. Also, if any of you are exploring this afternoon, I don't know if you'll have time. It's a lovely place to go and explore. Some of you, police station. So this is his police station up on the right here. You'll have seen him going in and out of that many times, but it is not, the interior is not shot here, it's shot in a studio in mainland Scotland. And we're now turning left. If you notice the signage here, it's all Lerwick Street, St. Olaf Street. On the right-hand side here is, if you've heard of Archipelago, our huge fire festival, takes place at the end of January. This is where we burn our replica Viking ship, our galley. And there's 1,000 geysers with torches. Used to only be men. This year's the first year that us women have been allowed to take part, so that's a bit of progress for you. So around in a sort of square here, and then they burn the galley, and then we party all night long until 8 o'clock in the morning. There's a series of different halls open, and there's a lot of dancing and drinking and eating. And we have a wonderful time. It really is fantastic. On the right here is an old school. It is now a community centre, and it's wonderful. You can go and hire rooms there for whatever you want. It might be drama, it might be some sort of musical thing, just any community event there. And next door to that building was the youth hostel, which is actually one of the best youth hostels in the world, twice. It's very, very plush for a youth hostel. We're going to turn right here, and you'll see this. This has two different names on it. It says Gaudi's Funeral Directors and the Gilbert Bain Hospital. It is, in fact, it was a hospital when it was originally built by Gilbert Bain's sisters. Donated money when he passed away, and they built the Gilbert Bain Hospital, and it has now ended up as the Funeral Directors. And we will be passing the new hospital will be coming up on the right very shortly, and our hospital here is very well used. It also had its own TV series called Island Medics, which I think you can get on BBC iPlayer. And we do all sorts of medical procedures here, and it's also used for people coming, if they have offshore accidents or fishing accidents, they're medevaced by helicopter usually. There's a landing pad not very far from here at the sports centre where they land the people. And sometimes they have to be flown right to Aberdeen as well by our air ambulance service. On the left, this is Lerwick Bay, which translates in the north as Broad Bay. And a bay is sort of a square-shaped place. Now, just go around the roundabout, and on the left is Tesco supermarket. That's a rather big supermarket. Here in Lerwick, and a beautiful cafe called Fiara, where you can sit and sometimes see seals and very occasionally otters. It's a lovely place to sit and have a coffee and something to eat. On the right structure, that is a broch. If you can see that out the right hand side. And the brochs were built about 2,000 years ago. You can see this is only the bottom that's left of the broch. At one time that would have stood 13 metres high, and it would have been a double chair, and they're not exactly sure what the brochs were built for. It may have been a status symbol, it may have been defence, but archaeologists don't just completely know. However, they are actually wonderful to go inside, and we have the best preserved broch in the world in Shetland, still standing at 13 metres on the island of Musa, and that's absolutely wonderful to go and see. You have to go over by boat, and that's wonderful. We're now in a very residential area. This is the south end of Lerwick, and I actually live in this area, which is quite a nice place to live because there's no industrial things here, and there's a sandy beach which the people on the left may be able to see when we go up the top of the hill. It's called the Sands of Sound. It's rather a lovely name, I think, for that beach. And I'm very fortunate that I can get a good view out my living room window of there, because I live in one of those coloured houses away near the far edge of the hill there, and they're sort of a nod to our Norse heritage as well. They're wooden coloured houses, which is very nice. Some of them are housing association houses, some of them are private, and all the houses on the right hand side here are private houses. So as you can see out the left, you will see a beautiful view there of the bay, and over towards the island of Bresa, which we'll get a better view of when we come over the top of the hill here. On the left, you'll see a white, kind of creamish looking building with striped brownish bits on it. That's part of our meteorological office here, and that's